At my husband's funeral, my daughter-in-law leaned over and whispered, "The house is ours now, old lady." She didn't know. The lawyer had the real will with my name on it. 52 years. That was the exact amount of time spent with Henry, building a life-saving, every penny planning, a future we imagined we would live together until the end. I never imagined I would be alone at that funeral, watching his casket descend into the earth while feeling not only the weight of loss, but also the venom of the words whispered in my ear. My daughter-in-law, Jennifer, the woman my son William chose to share his life with, approached me at my most vulnerable moment and said, "Those words I will never forget. The house is ours now, old lady. The mansion Henry and I built with such sacrifice, the home where we raised our son, where we cherished every precious memory of our 52 years together." She believed she could simply take it all from me. But what Jennifer didn't know was that Henry, even in his final days, foresaw exactly what would happen after his passing. The will she believed existed, the one my son showed her so many times, was nothing more than a sham. The true document was safely in the hands of Dr. Martinez, the family's lawyer for over 3 decades. A man who knew every chapter of our story and who would be responsible for revealing the truth when the time was right. What happened after that declaration of war, disguised as condolences, changed not only my life, but that of our entire family. This is my story, the journey of a woman who at 75 discovered a strength she didn't even know she possessed. If you're listening now, know that this is a space where we share real stories that are often hidden behind forced smiles at family gatherings. Stories about betrayal, about pain, but also about overcoming obstacles and justice. If you've ever felt that your family isn't always the safe haven it should be, you're in the right place. Here we speak truths that many prefer to ignore. Subscribe to this channel, like it, and get ready to discover how I turned one of the worst family betrayals into my greatest victory. Now I'll tell you exactly how it all began. My name is Victoria. I was born in the countryside of São Paulo, the daughter of immigrants who arrived in Brazil in the 1940s fleeing the war. I grew up learning the value of hard work and thrift. I met Henry when I was just 19 in 1969, at a time when the country was experiencing its own turmoil. He was the son of American diplomats temporarily in Brazil, but our love was strong enough to make him stay. We married 6 months after we met, against the wishes of his family, who expected him to return to the United States to follow in his father's footsteps. Henry chose love, and together we started from scratch. The first few years were difficult. We lived in a small rented apartment downtown, saving every penny we earned. Henry got a job at a multinational company while I taught English. We worked tirelessly, postponed dreams, and lived with the bare minimum. In 1972, I discovered I was pregnant. William was born on an April morning, bringing a joy we had never experienced before. With the arrival of our son, our determination only grew. We wanted to give him everything we never had, especially a home to call his own. For 10 years, we continued saving. Henry was promoted a few times, and I opened my own language school, which quickly prospered. In 1982, we finally realized our dream of buying our own land. It was a large plot of land on the outskirts of the city, which at the time seemed far from everything, but Henry always said the city would grow in that direction. As always, he was right. We built our house slowly, brick by brick, paying attention to every detail. I remember the day we moved in as if it were yesterday. William was 10 years old and ran through the empty rooms, amazed at the space he would have to play. That house represented everything we had achieved together, every sacrifice, every difficult choice. Over the years, the area truly developed, becoming one of the most valuable areas in the city. Our property, which we bought for $15,000 at the time, was now worth millions. But for us, the value always went far beyond financial. Those walls held our stories: William's birthdays, his graduations, our family Christmases, the nights when just Henry and I would sit on the porch planning our old age together. William grew up, went to university, and graduated with a degree in business administration. He was always a good boy, but I noticed a change when he started working in the financial market. The quick money, the unbridled ambition, the need to show off. Values so different from those we try to instill. In 2005, he met Jennifer during a business trip. She was a model 20 years younger than him, stunning and full of charm. When William brought her to introduce us, I immediately noticed how her eyes roamed every detail of our home, assessing, calculating. The wedding took place just 3 months later. It was an extravagant ceremony, far from what William had always said he wanted. Henry paid for everything, 150,000 reais from our retirement savings. We didn't complain, we wanted to see our son happy. Jennifer wore a 45,000 reais dress and made a point of mentioning the price to all the guests. At that party, amidst smiles and toasts, I felt my first chill, that intuition only mothers have when something isn't right. In the early years of their marriage, William and Jennifer visited regularly. She was polite, yet distant. I always noticed how her eyes lit up when Henry mentioned investments or properties. In 2007, our granddaughter Charlotte was born. It was one of the happiest days of our lives. Jennifer allowed us to keep the little one some weekends, saying she needed me time. We lovingly cared for Charlotte while they traveled to exotic destinations, always documenting everything on social media. In 2020, Henry was diagnosed with advanced pancreatic cancer. It was like the world had collapsed around me. The doctors were honest from the start, we would only have a few months together. William seemed genuinely devastated. Jennifer, on the other hand, began visiting more frequently, always asking questions about life insurance investments and the status of the will. On one such visit, when it was just me and her in the kitchen, she casually said, "Victoria, you really should organize the documents better. William is an only child, so naturally everything will pass to him. It would be easier if you move the process along." I told Henry about this conversation. He was silent for a long time before saying, "We need to talk to Martinez." The next day, he called Dr. Martinez, our lawyer and longtime friend. The meeting took place in our room as Henry was too weak to leave. I don't know what they discussed when they asked to be alone, but I remember that when I left, Henry seemed calmer, as if he had solved a major problem. The following weeks were a blur of hospitals, medications, and pain. Henry fought bravely, but in January 2022, he left us. Words cannot describe the emptiness I felt. 52 years of companionship, love, and building together ended in that cold hospital bed with the last breath of the man who gave meaning to my life. The funeral was held 2 days later. William organized everything, choosing the most expensive casket and arranging for a choir to sing his father's favorite songs. Jennifer wore an elegant black dress and understated jewelry, the perfect image of a grieving daughter-in-law. She stayed by my side throughout the ceremony, holding my hand, offering tissues when the tears welled up. It was when the last visitor left that she approached, leaned in as if to give me a comforting hug, and whispered these words: "The house is ours now, old lady. William and I have decided that you can stay in the back room or seek a nursing home. We'll give you a week to decide." I froze, unable to process what I had just heard. As she walked away, I looked at Henry's grave and for the first time since his death felt anger instead of sadness. Anger that he had left me, anger that I had to face this alone, anger that our son had become someone I barely recognized. It was then that I noticed Dr. Martinez approaching. He was visibly emotional. He had been a close friend of Henry's for over 30 years. He placed his hand on my shoulder and said, "Victoria, we need to talk. Not today, but tomorrow. Come to my office at 1000. It's important." I returned home alone that night. William and Jennifer said they needed to take care of some business and would stop by to see me the next day. I entered that empty house where every corner reminded me of Henry. I sat in his armchair, still smelling of him, and cried myself to sleep. The next day, I woke determined to understand what Dr. Martinez had to tell me. I showered, dressed carefully, and took a taxi downtown. Dr. Martinez's office was in an old building. His secretary, who had known me for years, greeted me with a heartfelt hug and led me immediately to his office. Martinez stood when I entered, gave me a long hug, and offered me a seat. On his desk was a thick folder with Henry's name on it. "Victoria," he began, "Henry asked me to wait until after the funeral to have this conversation." He knew exactly what would happen and prepared for it. He opened the folder and took out a bound document. This is Henry's will. The real will. I stared at those pages, not quite understanding. Martinez continued. Henry came to me about a year ago when he became suspicious of Jennifer's intentions. He discovered that William had shown her a supposed will, a forged document that indicated the house and all assets would automatically pass to William upon his. My stomach tightened. But that's not true, Martinez continued. Henry officially changed his will. The house, savings, investments, everything is in your name, Victoria. He also left a letter explaining his reasons. With trembling hands, I took the envelope Martinez handed me. I immediately recognized Henry's handwriting. I opened it carefully and began to read. My beloved Victoria, if you are reading this letter, it means I am no longer physically with you. We spent 52 wonderful years. Each day by your side was a gift I never fully deserved. We built a life together from scratch, overcame difficulties that would have separated less determined couples, and raised a son who was our greatest joy. Or at least that was the case for many years. Victoria, the decisions I have made recently have caused me great pain, but they were necessary. In recent years, I have observed changes in William that concern me deeply. Jennifer's influence in his life has brought out a side of him we never knew: greed, selfishness, the belief that he deserves everything without effort. I discovered through conversations with mutual friends that William has shown Jennifer a supposed will, assuring her that our house and all our possessions will be theirs once I am gone. Even more painful was discovering that they already have plans for you: a small room in the back of our house or a retirement home. Our home, Victoria. The home we built with so much love and sacrifice. I cannot allow that to happen. For this reason. For that reason, I have changed my will. Everything we built together belongs to you. The house, the savings, the investments. William will receive only what the law requires as a necessary heir, nothing more. I know this decision may seem harsh, but I believe it is the only way to protect you and perhaps to teach our son a lesson. Perhaps when he realizes what he has lost, not only materially, but especially your respect and love, he will be able to reflect and change. Victoria, you have always been the strength of our family, even when you didn't realize it. Now you will need that strength more than ever. I know you will do what is right, as you always have. Remember that my love for you transcends death. I will always be by your side, even if you cannot see me. With all my love for all eternity, Henry. Tears streamed down my face as I finished reading. It was Henry's voice, his concern, his love. Martinez waited patiently for me to compose myself before continuing. Henry also left specific instructions on how to proceed. He didn't want William to know about the royal will immediately. He suggested we wait for them to make their next move. And what would that movement be? I asked, wiping away my tears. They will probably try to force you to leave the house or sign some document. When that happens, we will reveal the real will. Until then, I suggest you carry on as normal without giving any indication that you know anything. I left Martinez's office with mixed emotions: sadness at my own son's betrayal, gratitude for Henry's love and protection even after his departure, and a growing determination not to allow this injustice to happen. On the way home, I decided I would follow Martinez's advice and Henry's plan. I would wait to see what William and Jennifer's next move would be. I didn't have to wait long. That same afternoon, they showed up at the house. Jennifer was especially kind, bringing flowers to brighten the mood and insisting on making dinner. William seemed nervous and avoided eye contact. After dinner, while Jennifer washed the dishes, something she'd never done before, William sat next to me on the couch. "Mom," he began, "Jennifer and I have been talking. We know how hard it is for you to be alone in this huge house. It's a lot of maintenance, a lot of responsibility." I nodded, pretending not to notice where the conversation was going. "We've been thinking that maybe it would be better for you if we sold the house." "Sell the house?" I asked, feigning surprise. "But it's our home, William, where your father and I lived for almost 40 years. Where you grew up. I know, Mom, but it's a lot of space for just one person. And with the money from the sale, we could buy you a smaller apartment, something easier to maintain. Or maybe you'd prefer to go to a retirement community. The one Jennifer's mom is in is excellent. Jennifer came back from the kitchen at that moment, drying her hands on a dish towel. Victoria, she said, using my first name, as she always did, even though I'd asked her countless times to call me Mrs. Victoria, or even mother-in-law. I know it's a difficult decision, but think about it. You'd be surrounded by people your own age with appropriate activities. Charlotte and I would visit often. I took a deep breath, remembering Martinez's advice. I need to think about it, I replied. It's a big decision to make so quickly after your father's death. William seemed relieved by my measured response. Sure, Mom, take your time. But don't take too long, okay? We already have some interested buyers. That sentence hit me like a slap. They were already planning to sell the house, already had interested buyers, while Henry had barely been buried. Buyers, I asked, unable to hide my surprise. Yes, some colleagues from work. This area is very valuable now, as you know. We can get at least $5 million for the property. $5 million. They'd even calculated how much they'd receive. I struggled to maintain my composure. Like I said, I need to think about it. After all, the house is in my name too, isn't it? I'd need my signature for any sale. I saw a flash of irritation pass across Jennifer's face, quickly replaced by a forced smile. Of course, Victoria. But Henry's will leaves everything to William, so it's just a formality. It would be easier to settle this sooner. The will, I asked innocently. Have you spoken to the lawyer yet? We don't need to, William replied quickly. Father showed me the will a few years ago. As an only child, everything passes automatically to me. At that moment, I felt a strange calm wash over me. It was as if Henry were beside me, holding my hand, giving me strength. I understand, he said simply. Still, I need time. They left shortly afterward, not before Jennifer casually mentioned that she knew a great real estate agent who could appraise the house when I was ready. As soon as I closed the door, I let the tears flow. They weren't tears of sadness or fear, but of outrage. How could my own son treat the woman who brought him into this world, who sacrificed so much for him, this way? How could he so easily forget all the values we tried to instill in him? That night, I couldn't sleep. I paced the house, touching the furniture Henry and I had chosen together. Looking at the photos on the walls, remembering every moment we'd lived there. In one of those photos, William, at age 7, smiling without his front teeth, embraced Henry in the backyard. Where was that sweet, loving boy? How had he become this cold? Calculating adult part of me wanted to confront him. Immediately show him the real. We'll see the look of shock on his face, and Jennifer's. But another part. Perhaps the wiser one knew Henry was right. It was better to wait, let them show how far they were willing to go. The following days were a test of my patience and self-control. William called daily, always asking if I'd thought about it. Jennifer would show up unannounced, bringing catalogs of senior housing, talking about how I'd be happier in such a place. On one of these visits, she even measured the rooms, saying it was to get a better idea of the value. All this while I pretended not to notice her true intentions. A week after the funeral, I got a call from Martinez. Victoria, I need to see you urgently. Can you come to my office today? 2 hours later, I was sitting in his office again. He looked worried. Victoria, William came to me yesterday. He brought a document he claims is Henry's will, giving him full control over all the assets. It's a forgery, of course, but a very well-crafted one. He wants me to start the process of transferring the property. What did you say to him? I asked, feeling my heart race. He said he would need to check the document, that it would take a few days. He didn't seem suspicious. But this means they are speeding up the process. We need to decide how to proceed. I thought for a moment before answering. Henry wanted us to wait for them to make their next move. I think this is the move, isn't it? They're trying to use a fake will. Martinez nodded gravely. Yes, and this is extremely serious. Document forgery is a crime. William could face criminal charges. That revelation hit me hard. My son, the boy I'd raised with so much love, could go to jail. Despite everything he was doing, the thought of seeing him incarcerated caused me deep pain. Is there any alternative? I asked. We can confront him privately, show him the real will, and hope he backs down. But honestly, Victoria, from what you've told me about his and Jennifer's, Behavior I'm not sure they'd take it easily. I left Martinez's office with the promise that he would delay any legal proceedings as long as possible, giving me time to decide how to proceed. On the way home, an idea began to form in my mind. What if instead of simply confronting William with the truth, I used this situation to try to reclaim my son, to make him see how much he had changed, how far he had strayed from the values Henry and I had tried to instill in him? That night, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went to the attic and took out the boxes of family albums. I spent hours looking at photos of William growing up, his elementary school drawings and letters he wrote to us when he went camping with the Boy Scouts. In one letter when he was 12, he wrote, "Dear Mom and Dad, when I grow up, I want to be just like you. I want to help people and work hard like you do. You are my heroes." I cried as I read those childish words, so sincere, so far removed from the man William had become. It was at that moment that I made my decision. I wouldn't use the will just to keep the house or punish William. I would use this situation to try to bring him back, to remind him who he truly was before. Jennifer's greed and influence transformed him. The next morning, I called Martinez and shared my plan with him. He listened attentively, made a few suggestions, and finally agreed. "It's risky, Victoria, but it could work. And it shows how much you still love your son, despite everything." The plan was simple. I would pretend to give in to William and Jennifer's pressure, agree to sell the house, and move into a senior living facility. He would even sign a power of attorney granting William the authority to negotiate the sale. The power of attorney, of course, would be carefully drafted by Martinez to have no real legal validity, but William wouldn't know that. We would let them move forward with the sales plans, show the house to buyers, and reach an agreement. And then, at the last moment, just as they were about to close, we would reveal the truth. That same afternoon, I called William. "Son, I've been thinking about selling the house. You're right, it's plenty of space for me alone. We can start looking at those condos Jennifer mentioned." The relief in his voice was palpable. "That's great, Mom. I'm glad you're being reasonable. Jennifer will be very pleased. She already has a few places to show you." 3 days later, Jennifer took me to see Residential Primavera, a place she said was perfect for people my age. The place was clean and organized, but it had an institutional feel that immediately depressed me. The residents seemed listless, sitting in chairs lined up against the walls, staring into space. Activities were basic card games, television, and the occasional supervised outing to the nearby park. "Isn't it wonderful?" Jennifer asked with false enthusiasm. "Look, they even have bingo on Wednesdays." I pretended to be seriously considering it. "How much does it cost?" I asked. "Only 5,000 reais a month," she replied quickly. "But don't worry about that. We'll use part of the money from the sale of the house to ensure you stay here comfortably. 5,000 a month on a house they hope to sell for 5 million. The math was clear. They plan to keep most of the money." "Sounds right," I replied, hiding my displeasure. "But before I decide, I need to resolve the matter of selling the house. How will we proceed with that?" Jennifer couldn't hide her triumphant smile. "William is already taking care of everything. He talked to your lawyer, Mr. Martinez. It seems like the process will be quite simple, since Henry's will is quite clear." "I understand," I replied. "But they'll still need my signature for the sale, won't they, after?" "All my name is on the deed, too." I saw a flash of irritation cross his face. "Yes, technically yes. But William was thinking it might be easier if you signed a power of attorney giving him the authority to handle everything. That way you wouldn't have to worry about the paperwork and bureaucracy." Power of attorney?" I asked, feigning innocence. "Isn't that giving him too much power?" "Victoria," she said, placing her hand over mine in a falsely affectionate gesture. "He's your son. You trust him, don't you? He just wants to make things easier for you at this difficult time." I agreed to talk to William about the power of attorney. 2 days later, he showed up at my house with the document already prepared. It wasn't the document Martinez and I had agreed on, of course. It was a broad power of attorney giving him nearly unlimited power over my assets. "This seems very comprehensive, son," I commented as I read. "I just wanted to authorize you to sell the house. It's the standard model, Mom, he replied quickly. It makes everything easier. You don't want to be signing papers all the time, do you? I handed the document back to him. Let me think about it a little more. Maybe I should show this to Dr. Martinez first. The mention of the lawyer made William visibly pale. There's no need to bother Martinez with this, Mother. He's busy with the estate and other more important matters. Even so, I insisted I would feel safer having his opinion. William left visibly upset. As soon as he left, I called Martinez and told him about the document. He didn't seem surprised. It's exactly what I expected. A comprehensive power of attorney that would allow him to control all your assets. Victoria, they're going above and beyond what we imagined. This isn't just about selling the house. They want to take complete control of everything you own. The next day, I went to Martinez's office and we signed the power of attorney we had prepared. It was a carefully drafted document that appeared to give William broad powers but contained specific clauses severely limiting what he could actually do. It also included an expiration date. 30 days after signing the document would completely lose its validity. I called William that afternoon and handed him the signed document. Here it is, son. I thought better of it and decided to trust you. After all, you are my only son. The look of relief and triumph on his face broke my heart. He could barely hide his satisfaction as he took the paper from my hands. You won't regret it, Mom. I'll take care of everything. The following weeks were a whirlwind of activity. William and Jennifer began bringing people to see the house almost daily. Potential buyers walked through the rooms, measured spaces, and loudly made plans about how they would remodel everything. It was painful to hear strangers talk about tearing down walls. Henry and I had painstakingly built about ripping up the garden I'd cultivated for decades to put in a pool. Even more painful was watching William and Jennifer's enthusiasm mentally, calculating how much profit they would make with each offer. Jennifer had already chosen the residential home where I would stay and even begun sorting out which of my belongings I could take, primarily clothes and a few personal items. Everything else, furniture, silverware, China family mementos, would be sold along with the house or stored by them. There's no room for all that stuff in your new apartment, she explained with false sweetness. One particularly difficult afternoon, after a particularly enthusiastic couple had made an offer on the house, I caught William alone in the kitchen. Son, I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, what would your father think of all this? I saw a flash of guilt pass through her eyes, quickly replaced by an expression of impatience. Father would understand that it's best for everyone, Mother. This house is too big for you, and the money will ensure a comfortable future for all of us. All of us, I asked. Or just you and Jennifer, you too, Mom, he replied, not looking me in the eye. We'll make sure you're safe at the residence. What about Charlotte? Shouldn't this house be her legacy too? The place where she grew up, knowing her roots, her family history. Charlotte will have other things, he replied dryly. Jennifer and I plan to buy a beach house with some of the money. It will be the new family gathering place. I realized in that moment that there was no trace left of the boy I'd raised. William was completely under the influence of Jennifer and the materialistic values she represented. My heart ached, but my determination only grew. The plan had to continue. After 3 weeks of visits and negotiations, William informed me that they had accepted an offer, 5.2 reals million for the house, with a condition that it'd be vacant within 30 days. It's a great deal, Mom, he said excitedly. Above the price we expected. I've already started arranging for you to move into the residence. You can go next week. So fast, I asked, feigning surprise. But what about all my belongings? I need time to organize everything, decide what to take with me. Jennifer already took care of that, he replied casually. She's sorted out your clothes and personal belongings. The rest will be sold or kept safe, safely stored. I knew exactly what that meant, sold or used by them. The family heirlooms, the jewelry Henry had given me over the years, all of it would be appropriated by Jennifer. I understand, I replied simply. And when will the sales contract be signed? Next Monday at the buyer's office. Don't worry, I'll take care of everything with the power of attorney you gave me. I called Martinez as soon as William left. I told him about the impending sale and the signing date. It's time, he said. I'll have everything ready for Monday. The weekend passed in a blur of emotions. Jennifer showed up on Saturday with some boxers and began helping me move, essentially choosing what I could and couldn't take. I watched silently as she sorted my simpler clothes and discarded the more elegant ones, saying they wouldn't be needed in the residence. I watched as she accidentally dropped and broke a framed photo of me and Henry, but carefully tucked away a pearl necklace he gave me for our 40th wedding anniversary. On Sunday night, when I was alone, I allowed myself a moment of weakness. I sat in Henry's chair, clutched the blanket he used on cold nights, and cried. I cried for him, for the life we'd built together, for the son he seemed to have. Loss for the granddaughter who was being raised with values so far removed from our own. For a brief moment, I questioned if I was doing the right thing. Would it be better to simply let William and Jennifer sell the house, keep the money, and settle for the condo? It would be easier, certainly. Less conflict, less pain. But then I remembered Henry's words in his letter. You have always been the strength of our family, even when you didn't realize it. He trusted me to do what was right, not what was easy. I wiped away my tears and reaffirmed my resolve. The plan would go forward. Monday arrived, sunny and warm. William picked me up at 9 a.m., saying we needed to stop by the condominium to finalize my application before the WAS. Jennifer stayed home, supposedly organizing more things for my move. The condominium was on the way to the office where the sales contract would be signed. William was visibly nervous, talking nonstop about how I would love the place, how it would be the best for me. We arrived at the residence and were greeted by the director, a middle-aged woman with a professional smile. She showed us the small apartment that would be mine, a tiny bedroom, a combined living room and kitchen. The size of a closet and a bathroom adapted for seniors. The walls were institutional beige, the floor covered in worn linoleum, and the window overlooked a parking lot. This would be my world for the years I had left, according to William and Jennifer's plans. Isn't it cozy, Mom? William asked with forced enthusiasm. And look, there's already a bed and a sofa. You just need to bring your personal belongings. I silently agreed as the director explained the rules: fixed meal times, supervised medication visits only at specific times. It was more of an institution than a home. William signed some papers, made a down payment, and assured me I would be moving in the next few days. I noted how charming he was with the director, how genuinely concerned he seemed about my well-being. A perfect actor. We left the apartment building and headed to the office where the house sales contract would be signed. William seemed increasingly anxious as we approached. Mom, he said suddenly, maybe you should wait in the car. These meetings can be long and tiring. I can handle everything with the power of attorney. No, son, I replied firmly. Want to be there. After all, it's the house I lived in for almost 40 years that's being sold. I want to meet the people who will take over. He seemed annoyed but didn't insist. We arrived at the office, an elegant office building in the city's financial district. In the elevator, William constantly checked his watch, clearly nervous. We entered a meeting room where several people were already waiting: the purchasing couple, their lawyer, the real estate agent William had hired. Everyone stood when we entered, professional smiles on their faces. Mrs. Almeida, said the realtor, it's a pleasure to finally meet you. Your house is truly magnificent. I politely thanked him as William led me to a chair. I noticed he looked confused, as he hadn't seen the buyer's attorney starting the process. Instead, everyone seemed to be waiting for something or someone. The door opened and Dr. Martinez entered, accompanied by a young assistant carrying a thick folder. William paled visibly. Dr. Martinez, he stammered. What are you doing here? I was invited by your mother, Martinez replied calmly. As the Almeida family's lawyer for over 30 years, it would be strange for me not to be present for such an important transaction. Don't you think the buyer's lawyer looked confused? Mr. Almeida, you failed to mention that your mother would have her own legal representation? William tried to compose himself. I didn't think it was necessary. I have power of attorney that gives me full authority to act on her behalf. About that, Martinez interrupted, opening his briefcase. I'd like to clarify. It's a few points before we continue. He removed a document and placed it on the table. This is the power of attorney that Mrs. Almeida signed. As you can see in Clause 7, Paragraph 3, it is valid specifically for initiating sales negotiations, but not for concluding them. Furthermore, it expired yesterday. William grabbed the document, reading frantically. His face alternated between pale and red. "This isn't what we agreed on," he muttered to me. Furthermore, Martinez continued, pulling another document from his briefcase. "I would like to present. Henry Almeida's official will notarized and legally validated." He handed copies to the buyer's attorney and the real estate agent. As you can see, Mr. Almeida left the house and all his assets in the name of his wife, Victoria Almeida. His son, William Almeida, receives only his legitimate share of other smaller investments. The room fell into a heavy silence. The buying couple and their lawyer pored over the documents with increasingly worried expressions. The realtor looked completely lost. William was in shock, unable to speak. "This means," Martinez continued calmly, "that this sale cannot proceed. Mrs. Almeida does not wish to sell the property, and as the sole legal owner. After her husband's passing, that is her sole prerogative." The buyer's lawyer was the first to recover. "Mr. Almeida," he said, turning to William, "you assured us that you had the legal authority to sell the property. You even presented a document purporting to be your father's will." "A document," Martinez interrupted, "which is a forgery, I might add. I have a forensic analysis here confirming this fact." He pulled another paper from his briefcase. "Well, forgery is a serious crime punishable by up to 5 years in prison." It was as if all the blood had drained from William's face. He looked from Martinez to me, then back to the buyers, clearly panicked. "There must be some mistake," he finally managed. "My father showed me this will years ago." "Your father," I replied calmly, speaking for the first time since Martinez arrived, "changed his will a year ago, William. He found out about your plans with Jennifer. He knew you intended to send me to a nursing home and sell the house as soon as he died." The buyers and the realtor looked extremely uncomfortable, witnessing what was clearly a private family drama. The buyer's attorney cleared his throat. "I believe we need to reschedule this meeting, or rather, cancel it considering the circumstances." "I apologize for the inconvenience," Martinez said. "My client is willing to compensate you for any costs you've incurred so far in this failed negotiation." The buyers and their lawyer quickly left, followed by the realtor, who gave William a disdainful look before closing the door. Only William Martinez and I were left in the room. "This is absurd!" William finally exploded. "You can't do this. To me, this house should be mine." "Why, William?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. "Why do you think you deserve to take the home your father and I built with so much sacrifice, the home where you grew up, where we made so many memories?" "Because," he hesitated clearly, without a satisfactory answer. "Because I'm your son, your only son. Everything you have should pass to me, even if it meant leaving me in a tiny room in a nursing home while you and Jennifer enjoy the cane. I enjoyed the millions from the sale." William didn't answer, but his face showed a mixture of embarrassment and anger. Martinez, sensing the growing tension, stood up. "I'll wait outside. You two need to talk." When we were alone, William slumped into a chair, avoiding my gaze. "Jennifer's going to kill me," he muttered. "Is that what worries you now?" Jennifer's reaction? I shook my head, feeling a deep sadness. "What happened to you, son? What happened to the boy we raised to be honest, hard-working, and respectful of others? Life happened, Mom," he exclaimed. "You and Dad lived in a different world. Today, everything is about money, about status. Jennifer understands that. She knows what it takes to succeed in this world. And does being successful include forging documents? Swindling your own mother? Planning to leave me in a nursing home while you spend your father, and I've earned so hard." I saw a flash of shame pass over his face, quickly replaced by defensiveness. "It wasn't a bad asylum. You see, it's a decent place. We would have visited." "How did you visit your grandparents?" I asked softly. This hit him hard. Henry's parents lived in the United States, and in 35 years, William visited them only twice, even when we had enough money to pay for his tickets. My parents died when he was a teenager, but in his later years he rarely asked about them or visited their graves. It's different, he murmured. No, it's not. I sighed deeply. William, your father knew what was going on. He discovered your plans months before he died. That's why he changed his will. Did Dad know? He asked, looking genuinely shocked. Yes. And you know what's saddest? He wasn't angry. He was hurt. Deeply hurt to see what his son had become. William looked down, and for a moment I saw a glimpse of the boy he had been. Vulnerable, capable of shame, of recognizing when he had done something wrong. What's going to happen now? He asked finally. Are you going to report me, put me in jail? No, son, I won't do that. I reached across the table and took his hand, which he didn't resist. But things have to change radically. He nodded, still not looking at me. First, you and Jennifer are no longer allowed in my home without prior invitation. Second, I want to distance myself from Jennifer until she shows me at least a modicum of respect. Third, you need to get help, William. Therapy, counseling, anything that will help you find your way back to the values we tried to instill in you. What if I don't agree? Then I replied firmly, Dr. Martinez has orders to take the forgery case to the police. It is your choice. William finally looked up, and I saw something I hadn't expected: tears. I'm so sorry, he murmured. I'm really sorry. At that moment, I didn't know if they were genuine tears of regret or just frustration that his plans had been discovered. But I chose to believe, or at least hope, that there was something of my son still there, buried under years of negative influence and distorted values. We walked home in silence. William dropped me off at the door, saying he needed to speak to Jennifer. I didn't envy his position at that moment. I walked alone into the house. I'd almost lost feeling his familiar embrace, Henry's scent still present in the most unexpected corners. I sat on the porch, and for the first time since his death felt peace. I had done what he expected of me. I had protected our home, our legacy, and maybe, just maybe, given our son a chance to rediscover who he truly was. The following weeks were tumultuous. Jennifer, as expected, was furious. She called repeatedly, leaving angry messages, threatening lawsuits, saying I would never see Charlotte again. William, surprisingly, kept his distance from her during this initial period. He called me daily at first, formally, then more openly. He began visiting without her, just to chat. On one of these visits, he brought old photo albums he had found in their apartment. Remember that day, he asked, showing a picture of us at the beach, him around 6 years old, building a sandcastle with Henry. That's when Dad taught me that the most beautiful things are sometimes temporary, and that doesn't make them any less special. I smiled, remembering that day, that lesson. Your father always had a special way of turning simple moments into life lessons. William stared at the photo longer than usual. You know what's weird? He finally said. I remember being that boy. I remember admiring you both so much, wanting to be just like you when I grew up. At what point did I lose that it was the first time he'd shown genuine reflection on what had happened? I didn't respond immediately, giving him space to continue his thought. I think it was gradual, he continued. College, my first job in finance, the friends I made there. Everyone measured success by money, by material possessions. And then Jennifer, ... double quotes, he trailed off hesitant. What about Jennifer? I asked softly. She came from a poor family, he said. Not like us who are middle class. They really struggled. I think that left a deep impression on her, this need for material security at any cost. It wasn't an excuse, I realized, but an attempt to understand. That explains, but it doesn't justify, William. Many people overcome difficult childhoods without becoming manipulative or greedy. He nodded slowly. I know. And to be fair, I can't blame you for everything. I allowed it. I chose this path too. He closed the photo album, looking at me with a seriousness that reminded me of Henry. I started therapy. Mom, twice a week, I felt my heart expand with hope. That's wonderful, son. It's hard, he admitted. Painful, actually. Looking back at who I've become, the choices I've made. But necessary. He hesitated again. Jennifer and I are separated. Temporarily, at least. She's with Charlotte at her mother's house. She didn't say she was surprised because she wasn't. Jennifer wasn't the type to stick by someone's side when plans went awry. And how are you feeling about that? Confused, he admitted. Part of me misses her the life we had. Another part, ... Another part is starting to realize how empty that life was based on appearances on things instead of people. He looked out the window at the garden I'd tended for decades. I miss Charlotte every day, though. I'm fighting for the right to see her regularly. Over the next few months, I saw a gradual transformation in William. Therapy continued, and he began reconnecting with old friends he'd abandoned because they weren't successful enough by Jennifer's standards. He and Jennifer briefly attempted a reconciliation, but it became clear that their differences in values ran too deep. The divorce was finalized 6 months after the house sling episode. A year after Henry's death, I organized a small memorial service. Only those truly close to him were invited. To my surprise, Jennifer allowed Charlotte to come with William. My granddaughter, now 15, was taller with features so reminiscent of her grandfather. During the service, she sat next to me, holding my hand as I shared memories of Henry. Later, when we were alone in the kitchen, Charlotte asked me, "Grandma, is it true that Mom tried to take your house?" I was momentarily speechless, taken aback by the direct question. "Where did you hear that I heard Mom talking to Grandma Martha?" "She said you ruined everything, that the house should be hers and Dad's." I took a deep breath, considering carefully how to respond. "Charlotte, sometimes adults make choices driven by reasons they don't even fully understand. Your mother and father were going through a difficult time making decisions. It didn't reflect who they truly are." Charlotte looked at me with wisdom beyond her years. "Dad's different now. More like the old photos he showed me. He smiles more, he really listens to me." I felt my eyes fill with tears. "That's wonderful, darling. Can I visit you more often?" she asked. "Daddy said you have lots of stories about Grandpa, about what he was like when he was young." "Of course you can, my love. This house will always be open to you." After everyone left, I sat back on the porch where Henry and I had so often watched the sunset together. I thought about everything that had happened in the last year, the pain of loss, the betrayal, the confrontation, and finally, the first steps toward healing. William still had a long way to go, and our relationship would never be exactly the same. Some breaches of trust leave permanent scars. But there was hope, and that was more than I had dared to dream in the dark days after Henry's death. The house around me, which I had nearly lost, now had new meaning. It was not just the home Henry and I had built, but a symbol of resilience, dignity, and values that refused to die. One day perhaps it would pass to William, and then to Charlotte. But it would be when the time was right, when the values it represented were truly understood and honored. Today, 3 years after Henry's death, I live a life I never imagined for my old age. At 78, I'm back teaching English classes twice a week to underprivileged children at the community center. William and I have dinner together every Sunday, a tradition he makes a point of maintaining even when he's busy. Charlotte spends 1 weekend a month with me, sleeping in her father's room, listening to stories about her grandparents and learning to appreciate the things money can't buy. Jennifer is remarried to a successful businessman. We still don't speak, but she's stopped obstructing Charlotte's visits, which I consider progress. William is in a new relationship with a history teacher he met at a book group. She's kind, intelligent, and most importantly, she values the same things he's relearning to value. As for me, I've found a peace I never expected to find again. Last week, while tidying the attic, I found a letter from Henry I hadn't seen before, hidden in an old book. In it, he wrote, "Victoria, my love, if you're reading this, it means you've found your way through the storm as I always knew you would. You've always been my rock, my moral compass, my light. Don't worry about me wherever I am. I'll be fine knowing you're safe, that our home is in good hands, that our legacy continues through you, William, who will find his way back, I'm sure. And Charlotte, live the time you have left fully. You deserve every moment of joy. Until we meet again. Eternally yours, Henry." I read and reread those words, feeling as if he were there with me, as if he had somehow foreseen everything that would happen. And perhaps he had. Henry always had a special intuition about people, about the future. It was this intuition that led him to protect our house, our home, not just for me, but for the future of our family. The house I almost lost still stands solid as ever, holding new memories alongside the old. It's a testament to the fact that some things are priceless, that some battles are worth fighting, and that it's never too late to reclaim what truly matters. If you're listening to this story and identify in any way, know that it's never too late to defend what's rightfully yours too. Reclaim your dignity to demand the respect you deserve. Families can heal, people can change, and sometimes the greatest victories come after the hardest battles. If you enjoyed this story, please like it and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Tell me in the comments, have you ever faced family betrayal? How did you handle it? Your experience can help others going through similar situations. Share this video with someone who might need to hear that it's possible to win even when everything seems lost. Until next time.